Welcome to Brain Academy. Okay, so in this video, we are going to talk about atoms, molecules, elements, and compounds. So we're going to start with a piece of gold and water. So we have our gold here and a beaker filled with water. So we have our gold here, and this is our water. So both our gold and water are pure. We have pure gold and we have pure water. Now, if you break down this gold into tiny particles, and if you zoom in, what we'll find is the gold is made up of tiny yellow color particles, let's say. So it is made up of similar type of particles, small tiny particles. When we zoom in on the water, what you'll find is water is also made up of tiny particles, but in the case of water, we'll find that it is made up of two types of particles. So we have our blue particles and we have our green particles. So there are two particles in case of water. And when something is made up of only one type of particles, like our gold here, then it is called element. And if the substances are made up of different particles, then they are called compound. Our water is compound. In this way, we can now define element as elements are the pure substances which are made up of only one type of particles. We are going to call our particles atoms, so which is made up of only one type of atoms. Whereas compounds are the pure substances, so our water is also pure in nature, but they are made up of more than one type of atoms. So compounds are the pure substances which are made up of more than one type of atoms. And this is our element and compound. Now we're going to look at these atoms a little bit more. So these tiny particles that we discussed about are our atoms. Okay, so let's look at atoms and molecules now. Now we're done with the element and compound. Let's look at the same example again. So we have our gold here, and we have our beaker filled with water. So again, we zoom in on the gold, and this gold is made up of these yellow colored tiny particles. And when we zoom in on the water, we can find that it is made up of two different type of particles, these blue and these green color particles. Now the smallest particle of our gold is called atom, whereas in case of our water, the smallest particle of water is not these green or blue particles. This green particle is our hydrogen, and this blue particle is our oxygen. And when you combine hydrogen and oxygen, we get water. So the smallest particle of our compound, our water, is this group of atoms. So we have our hydrogen, two hydrogen, H2, and then we have our oxygen, one oxygen. And this smallest particle of our compound is called molecule. Now we can define atom and molecule. So atom is our smallest particle of an element, whereas molecule is the smallest particle of the compound. Now the molecule part is a little bit tricky because we also have molecules of elements. So we just talked about the molecule of a compound. So what are the molecules of elements? Let's look at one element. So we have our hydrogen. So when we zoom in on this hydrogen element, what we'll find is it is made up of these tiny particles, our hydrogen atoms. But these hydrogen atoms are always paired with each other. So in nature, we'll always find hydrogen atoms in a group of 2. So the hydrogen atoms which exist in nature freely or independently are actually 2 hydrogen atoms. So we can define molecule of hydrogen as the smallest particle of hydrogen which can exist freely or independently, which is 2 hydrogen atoms, not a single hydrogen atom. So our single hydrogen atom is our atom, which is the smallest particle that is possible, whereas our H2, which is the smallest particle that can exist freely, is our molecule. So now we can define molecule a little bit differently as the smallest particle of element or compound which can exist independently or freely in nature. It should be smallest particle, but it should also be able to exist independently. Now, sometimes the atom and the molecule of the elements are same. So let's look at another example where atoms and molecules are same. So we have our carbon atom, which is made up of these tiny particles. So these are our carbon atoms. The thing with carbon atoms is they do not need to be paired with each other to exist in nature. They can exist alone in nature or independently in nature. So in case of our carbon atoms, the atom of our carbon element is C. The molecule of our carbon is also a single C. And in this case, the atom and the molecule of the element is same. I hope it was helpful. Thank you for watching till the end.